We're preparing for our next heat of racing, but as we do, there's been a lot of talk about turbines on the circuit this year, and there is more coming in 1990.
One of the hardest working owners on the Unlimited Tour has to be Jim Harvey. You can see he's in uniform. He works right with his crew. Next year, I understand, the old boy Alberto just might go faster.
Well, we've made a purchase of 8 turbines shortly after the Seattle race, and we're looking forward to the change. It may not be a complete change. We may also keep this boat for saltwater races.
Saltwater didn't claim the Hulse Miss Mazda earlier. Fire did, but now they've got the boat repaired. Mike Hansen is ready to take it back out. Oh boy, Alberto. George Woods Jr., the driver of the boat we were just talking about. The Miss Budweiser, Tom Deeth driving that one out of Michigan. Circus Circus. Chip Hanauer out of Seattle, Washington. The Miss Northwest, the U-85 is Jack Schaefer Jr. And Sundeck U-9 is Mark Evans, whose brother also drives an Unlimited.
The battle between Circus Circus and Miss Budweiser in this heat, well, it's not going to happen. The Circus Circus is dead in the water, off the course. It will not run for Chip Hanauer as the Miss Budweiser comes down on the money to start Heat 2A.
Better than 200 miles an hour on the start of the race. Tommy Deeth powering now into the first turn on the course. On the inside, it's the Hulse Miss Mazda. Now remember, this boat earlier in the day had a fire on board and knocked the boat out of the heat. But right now, Mike Hansen's got his foot in it, and he's powering on to hold it on the pins and try to stay up with Tommy Deeth in the Miss Budweiser. Good race, good running here on Mission Bay. The water just about perfect. They like a little bit of chop in there because they have to get that pocket of air that you see under the boat. They actually start the boat flat down in the water, and they have to pop it out, get the air underneath, get the boat airborne. They don't want it too airborne. We saw too much of that here last year when 2 of the boats, Hulse Miss Mazda and the Circus Circus, go over side by side. But right now, all the boats are running beautifully. 139.103 miles per hour.
And he breaks his record from the first heat by a mile an hour. So he set 2 records today, broke his own for 1 lap. Let's see if he can break the overall 15-mile heat average.
Second place now is the Hulse Miss Mazda. That is a boat owned by the city of Madison, Indiana. Chip Hanauer tried to restart, but it's not going to go. The Circus Circus dead in the water, and it looks like the saltwater has claimed yet another turbine, the 3rd on the day.
So after winning his last heat, he had problems at the start, got it restarted, and cannot finish the race.
Boy, is that ever the story of turbines on salt water. But this one is operating flawlessly at the moment. This is the Miss Budweiser, the red and white boat coming head on at your screen. And to the left of center of your screen, there is the Hulse Miss Mazda. And there's a good shot of that boat, a reciprocating engine. It is a boat driven by Mike Hansen. Mike is out of the Seattle, Washington area, although the boat is owned by the folks of Madison, Indiana. Here's the red and white Miss Budweiser that we've talked about, owned by Bernie Little of Lakeland, Florida. Driven, of course, by Tom Deeth of Fairhaven, Michigan. This is the Miss Northwest. Riding in 3rd place, Jack Schaefer Jr., whose dad was involved in unlimited hydroplane racing. Jack now carrying on the tradition. Good racing here on Mission Bay as these boats all take aim at the Gold Cup.
Mark Evans in the Sundeck did not start. As we saw, the Circus Circus started, then did not finish. And old boy Alberto, George Woods, continues to have his problems. He's going to need some points in the next heat because he didn't start this one. As we look at our leader coming down, and Tommy Deeth is well on his way to breaking a heat average record he set earlier for Gold Cup competition.
The flag comes out, and Tommy Deeth will take the win as he laps the 3rd place boat. Tommy Deeth on the right side of your screen now. He takes the win in the Miss Budweiser. This has got to have that crew really happy down there. So far, their turbine has been operating flawlessly in the salt water.
A 15-mile heat and a 2.5-mile course, a new record, 135.265 for Gold Cup competition. Tommy Deeth has set 4 records today.
So Tom Deeth looking for only his 2nd Gold Cup. The last time he won was on the Detroit River in Detroit, Michigan, in the Miss U.S. back in 1976 for owner George Simon.
That makes it 2 in a row for Miss Budweiser here today. Hulse Miss Mazda 2nd, Miss Northwest 3rd. The rest of the field, no points scored. Let's go down to the pits and Mark Spencer.
Ronnie Brown, your 2nd win in a row. You're making it look easy.
Well, Mark, believe it or not, it's really not easy. We have been struggling most of the weekend here to solve the saltwater problems.
We just put 2 back-to-back heats together with hardly any popping at all in the engine, and we got a new filtration system on the boat, and it looks like the filter's doing its job, and we can put 2 more heats together, and Miss Budweiser might win the Gold Cup this weekend, and we can probably put her on top for the National High Point Championship, Mark.
San Diego, a fine host of the APBA Gold Cup. Our thanks to John Daly, the Chairman and Board of Governors, Dave King, Sam Parisay, Mike Henderson, all the gang. They've been very kind to us, and we thank them for their time and their efforts in this Gold Cup. We'll be back with more of the HFC American Hydroplane Series, the Budweiser APBA Gold Cup, in just a moment. Back here in San Diego, I'm Jim Hendrick, along with Dick Crippen. A whole city of Madison, Indiana, owns one of the race boats here today. Dick Crippen is down in the pit area. Dick?
One of the great stories in unlimited hydroplane racing certainly has got to be the Hulset Miss Mazda. It's owned by the citizens of Madison, Indiana. Bob Hughes is their representative on the circuit. And Bob, when it all comes down to what's happened to you this year, a lot of the credit has got to go to the driver of this boat.
Oh, no doubt about it, Dick. I think Mike Hansen is probably one of the finest drivers in the sport. He does an excellent job driving, and he works on the boat in addition to doing his driving chores. So we're real proud of Mike Hansen.
Oh, it's a team effort. There's 13,000 owners back in Madison that put a whole lot of effort into it. Hulset and Mazda, they put a lot of effort into making sure this boat hits the water, and it gets down to a crew. I mean, they put the equipment together. I have to put all my faith and trust in them that they're giving me the fastest and safest piece of equipment they can, and I go out there knowing that, and that's why we perform as well as we do week in and week out.
The crew members, basically, the top 5 are the ones that are basically here all the time are Charlie McCluggage. Charlie McCluggage is our electrical man. He's completely rewired this boat time and time again, and he does the majority of the wiring work. Dave Stewart's another member of the team. He strictly does engine work and does quite a good job at that as well. Pat Furnish is another guy who does basically the same thing as Dave does, strictly engine work. The 4th member would be Jan Matheny. Jan Matheny takes care of our air bottles, some of the little knick-knack things that go on to kind of make the thing work. Jan does most of those things. The other member is a guy who just joined us this year. He's a stuntman from Hollywood. His name is Billy Bates, and we use Billy to take care of Mike, to get him dressed, get him going, get him pumped up, get him psyched, those things. So Billy takes care of most of those things for us.
A fine team from a fine town. We enjoy racing every year at Madison, Indiana, on the banks of the Ohio River. Jerry Hopp in Heat 2B will drive the mid-mark distributor boat. Todd Yarling in the U.S. West Cellular, Bill Wooster Jr., the owner of that one. His dad, Bill Wooster Sr., well, his boat, Mr. Pringles, is in there with Scott Pierce. Larry Lauterbach will drive the Winston Eagle. Steve David in the Miss Easter Seals for this particular race. And it'll be the Cooper's Express. Mitch Evans will drive. As they come down to the start, Dick Crippen.
All right, Jim, we're looking at lane number 1. The Winston Eagle is there. Lane number 2 is Easter Seals. Lane 3 is Cooper's Express and Mr. Pringles on the outside. Lane number 4, there's the flag, and they are off.
The U.S. West Cellular down by the pit area. Todd Yarling's boat would not start. We're down to 4 boats.
Mr. Pringles taking the lead as they go into the corner, but look at there. Winston Eagle came right up on the inside of her. Now Scott Pierce has got some real competition. If he can hold the speed up on the outside of the course, he may be able to catch the Winston Eagle coming out of the turn. Winston Eagle, Larry Lauterbach out of Portsmouth, Virginia, powering on as he now fights off a battle from the Mr. Pringles.
Up the center comes Cooper's Express. And they're right, 1, 2, 3. We're looking at the outside boat, Mr. Pringles, that turbine boat driven by Scott Pierce. He goes right by the Winston Eagle as they come down to corner number 3.
Cooper's Express has got to be the amazing story here. This is one of the reciprocating engines that we have talked about so many times, going up against 2 turbines and holding right in there in between the Winston Eagle and the Mr. Pringles. Right now, Winston Eagles has again taken over at the end of lap number 1, the lead by about a boat length.
As they come down to corner number 1. For the second time, it's the Mr. Pringles with a slight edge in lane 2 over the inside boat, Larry Lauterbach in the Winston Eagle.
A good chance to explain to the fans that are watching the outside boat. Whoa, something blew off. Something blew off of the Winston Eagle. The cowling, it looked like, came right off the back of the boat, exposing that turbine engine, and that's exactly what happened. But it did not slow Larry Lauterbach down at all. So the battle still goes on with Winston Eagle right now coming out of the turn as the #1 boat, but now about half a boat length behind and trying to close Mr. Pringles on the outside.
And he's picked up his speed over 4 miles an hour, and there's only a mile-an-hour difference between our leader, Winston Eagle, and the second-place boat, Mr. Pringles, as they come down to corner number 3 again.
And again, it is Mr. Pringles on the outside trying to hold the speed. That's one advantage the outside boat has, but if the inside boat can peg those pins, then he may have the advantage coming out of the turn. Cooper's Express, Mitch Evans, problems with the boat. He's slowing down off of plane. That means that Stephen David in the Easter Seals boat has now moved up into 3rd place. So dependability of the reciprocating engine here is paying off against another reciprocal. And look what's happened. Maybe the salt water has again gotten to the Winston Eagle. Without that cowling on, it's exposed. It looks like he was losing the rooster tail. And as you look at the boat off to the right side, they've got something flapping on the vertical.
Would you believe that's 200-mile-an-hour tape that's not holding? They had a crack there in that vertical fin, and they taped it up, and it's starting to unravel.
Well, it certainly hasn't affected the speed at all of the Jip Presents Mr. Pringles. Now in the lead, Scott Pierce. He's got to be feeling very, very good about the way that boat is running now. And in 2nd place, Stephen David in the Miss Easter Sails. So again, the dependability of that reciprocating engine has paid off for Stephen David in 2nd place. But the leader, Mr. Pringles, in a turbine boat, that is a great win for this boat on this course. There's Stephen David coming home. They've got to be happy. Bob Fendler and crew standing down there on the docks, and they've got to be very happy about how that boat is operated.
All right, Dick, here's a replay. The Winston Eagle loses the cowling, goes up about 30 feet in the air. That was the beginning of the problems for the Winston Eagle and Larry Lauterbach. Saltwater probably took the toll from there on.
We'll be back with more HFC hydroplane racing and the Budweiser APBA Gold Cup in a moment. Back at Mission Bay, San Diego, California, you have 3 boats that did not finish that last heat. 1 boat did not start. The winner was Mr. Pringles, followed by Miss Easter Seals. Here's Mark Spencer.
Scotty Pierce, some great deck-to-deck boat racing there early on.
Yeah, Larry's a heck of a competitor in the Winston Eagle, and we're real proud of how we're doing with our saltwater setup here in San Diego with Jip Presents Mr. Pringles. And so far, so good. We're looking forward to the big show.